So before we get into our sermon today, our reading, maybe we'll call this a preliminary reflection. What is Hannukah? What is Hannukah? This is adapted from the Interfaith Family website, and then I'll provide a few thoughts. So Hannukah is an 8-day long festive holiday that commemorates an improbable victory some 22 centuries ago by the Maccabees, a band of Jewish guerrilla fighters seeking to reclaim their land, their temple, and their sovereignty from the oppressive rule of the Syrian Greek Empire. And as I said earlier, the word Hannukah means dedication. I don't know whose alarm keeps going off, but is there anyone out there who knows what that vibration keeps? Anyways, okay, it just stopped again. Somebody's alarm keeps going off. Sorry, you all. I am a very sensory aware person. So, all right, back to the script. So the word Hannukah means dedication, and it refers to the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem, which took place after the Maccabees' victory and reclamation in 164 BCE. So once the Maccabees had restored the temple and repurified it, the traditional story says that they sought to relight a temple lamp known as the eternal flame. So that's what we think of when we think of the Hanukkah menorah, or the Hanukkiah, if you will, right? That's the symbol of the holiday. The other story is a precursor. So the eternal flame was kept constantly burning by those who served the temple in the temple's tradition, and they wanted to relight this flame, this eternal flame, to rededicate this temple once they had gotten it back. And it was customary for the oil for this flame to first be consecrated before it was ever burned. However, there was only 1 day's worth of consecrated olive oil to be found. And it would be a while before they could consecrate more oil. It would take about 8 days to consecrate the oil in order to have more. So the timeline's not matching up because they need it in a day from now because they only have a day's worth. And so although they didn't have enough, the Maccabees lit the eternal flame anyway with 1 day's worth of oil. And the miracle story of Hannukah is that this lasted for 8 days until they could consecrate more. And so the eternal flame never went out from the time that it was lit until they had more oil, which is hence the 8 days. So when you look at a traditional menorah, which is not a Hanukkiah, but the traditional Jewish candelabra, there are 7 branches, but there's an 8th one there that lights the other 7. Anyways, there's 9. There's 8, and then there's 9 on the Hanukkiah, right, for the lighter candle, but to symbolize the 8 days. Okay, so hence the 8 nights of candle lighting for Hannukah. So I just provide that background. Maybe some of you were raised Jewish and you already know that, but if you didn't know that, then that context is important as we reflect upon the meaning of this holiday and the sermon for today. Like many winter holidays of other religions, Hanukkah emphasizes light during the darkest period of the year as well, and it's a festival of light in the winter and a celebration of the victorious underdogs. It's been said that we tell stories from history with their well-rehearsed moral endings because it's easier to reflect on the message after the story is complete and after we have time to make meaning, and they're not about us anymore, rather than when we're living in the middle of these stories. It's harder to do that while they're happening today, and so I also wanted to add a few reflections, and you can let this percolate with you as you listen to the sermon. And during our time of dialogue, I'm sure that thinking about this story now in light of the war in Gaza today has a different feeling, right? So I'm going to just share a couple of A couple of recent opinions from the news, and one is actually from inside an Israeli perspective, which might be more challenging to hear, but it's important to hear what the discourse is today, I think, as we reflect on this. One recent opinion writer for the Jerusalem Post invites Jews of today to contemplate that it can be challenging to perceive miracles in real time, and links the miracles of the victory of Hannukah to recent events. And his opinion is that the many recent military successes of the Israeli forces have been miracles for modern Israel. In light of the genocide of the Palestinian people, this invitation for celebration may be hard for us. That's a hard opinion for me to hear, who have compassion for the suffering people of Gaza, who we perceive today as the underdogs of the story, right? So that power structure is flipped, at least for me, and I think many of, it's different for everyone. The perspective about the story is different for everyone, depending on your place in it. Other Jews today, that's just one opinion of one Jewish person. I actually don't have opinions of Palestinian people. We're talking about a Jewish holiday. Other Jews of today, many of us here in this room probably welcome a more humanitarian revision of how Jewish holidays are observed in light of this war and modern times. One other writer writes, with the genocide in Gaza raging on and ethnic cleansing in full swing in the West Bank, what rabbis choose to say has never mattered more in light of all of our holidays. And as Unitarian Universalists, our values and principles lead us to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. We're called to support the least of these, not because of their specific identity with a religious faith or race of people, but because we are all worthy of love and the very basic human right of a just and peaceful life. So I invite us to remember in this Hannukah story that its message is twofold, that underdogs can surprise us. We don't have to link underdog to any particular race of people or moment in time, and that so can candles in the darkness, that so can things that we attempt to rekindle and revive, even when we're not sure if we have enough, even if when we're not sure. We don't know the ending of the current story, and we may not be fully in agreement with the moral ending of what that will be to this particular story that's not concluded yet, to the story of our modern time, although it is holy work to write this story and create this meaning together. I have a quote here from Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, our UUA president. In fact, she was writing this quote to support trans lives, which is also very important, but we can apply it to many things. And shout out that she was also my professor of UU theology at Starr King School for the Ministry. I love Reverend Sophia. She's a great person to seek out for meaning making during any time. As Unitarian Universalists, we are personally, theologically, and covenantally bound together by the expansive love that has always been the animating center of our faith. Isn't that a lovely, the animating center? What makes us come alive? What lives, right? The animating center of our faith is love. Far more powerful than any faction, leader, nation, or creed. It is this fierce love with a capital L, that compels our deepest loyalty and our most courageous action. This is what she's calling us to have allegiance to. Love at the center. I join you in meeting the days and years to come with faith and renewed purpose. Which kind of is the meaning of the word Hannukah, right? Dedication, rededication, renewed purpose. So I invite us all to open our minds and hearts to the broader meaning that we can create together this morning. How can we save the desecrated temples of our time? What are those temples most in need of saving? And let's meditate on this for a moment of silence. As I said, this is the preamble. This sermon is a little shorter today, so don't worry. This is the preamble. I wanted to give some context to a shorter sermon. And let me add that while the story of the modern-day people of Gaza will continue to be on our hearts in this sermon, I'm actually going to apply this to something broader still, which is the story of our earth and the temple of our earth that we share. And remember, earth is also often an unnamed casualty of war, and that's not in competition with the lives of people. It's not an either or, it's a both and. For humans and animals and earth alike, water, air, resources, everything is worth protecting and saving. So I invite you to take a moment to breathe, maybe close your eyes. And imagine those candles, one each night, being lit, and then the next, and then the next, and the next, growing over the 8 nights of Hanukkah until they're all burning brightly on the 8th night, a symbol of the light that hope can create when we move towards rededication with faith. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. One light at a time. One step on the journey. One leap of faith. One walk into the wilderness of hope beyond despair. The story of Hanukkah is an ancient story. It's a legend about survivors, about ferocity and courage. It's the story of a people who took back something that was stolen from them and then rededicated, who would not let their religious freedom be transgressed, who would not let their temple remain defiled. Don't miss this important part of the story. Their temple had been taken from them. Their temple had been taken, and it took years for them to get it back. Years. And many lives were lost, massacred during that time. And yet they still kept persisting. And when they returned to their temple, finally, those who were still there, they were ready. They were still ready, after all of this time, to celebrate, to relight the lamp, to believe in an eternal flame again after it had been put out, after it had been stolen, to relight the lamp and to rekindle the flame at that time. After years of guerrilla warfare, the Jews returned to the home and holy site the Syrian Greeks had stolen from them, to a place desecrated and despoiled. This is written by Reverend Lynn Ungar, who writes about this in the UU World. Undaunted, she says, they set about restoring what had been lost the best they could, knowing that it would never be the same. Knowing that those who died were gone, but knowing that those who were there, who remained, the temple that was still there, and whoever might come in the future were worthy enough, that the temple was still worthy enough to save. Can you feel the meaning that we can make from this story? We can make meaning from this ancient story, and it's about how we tell the story today. There are so many temples that need rededicating. I think this is part of the human journey in perpetuity, actually. I don't know if there's been a time when we weren't doing this as human beings. There are so many temples that need rededicating and so many lives that are worth saving. So a few years ago, I'm going to tell you a little personal story. A few years ago, I was standing on the beach North Topsail, North Carolina. It was maybe October or November, so around this time of year. I went on vacation with my family, and I was standing by the ocean, and I noticed, it must have been October, because I noticed a monarch butterfly on its migration heading southbound. And it made me so happy. It was the second or third monarch that I'd seen while I was there at the beach, and I hoped that it was on its way to Mexico. And as I stood there reveling in this little insect, you know I love them, I've talked about it earlier this year, the person I was standing with, we started talking. This is my father-in-law, my co-parent's dad, Bob. Bob and I started talking about the monarch's plight and the attempts of people to try to preserve these butterflies. And then our conversation turned to environmentalism in general and quickly to environmental despair. Whether or not these butterflies could be saved, whether or not our planet could be saved, if we even tried. It was bumming me out, to be honest. And you know the question, is time already run out? Has the moment we could have saved Earth passed? Is the temple of our world beyond salvation? Does it even matter? Does it even matter? And the message beneath these questions is that, well, even if we try, we will fail. So what's the use of trying? Right? We won't be able to succeed in time anyway. Have you ever felt that way? I have. So I'm not going to make promises about things we can't know. We don't know if our Earth is beyond saving. What does that even mean, really? Or humanity? But we do know what will happen if we don't try. We do know that. The sacred temple of Earth is occupied. That's another temple that's occupied. Earth has been defiled, and many of us gathered here today know that we have been participants. Okay, all of us have been participants. Hopefully, we all know that, like it or not, in her undoing. But Earth is still our temple, all of our temple. Many here have done things to help as well. And we can continuously rededicate ourselves to her, to that temple. And she might surprise us. We can even simultaneously identify with both sides of the story, right? With the Syrian Greeks and with the Maccabees, with the occupiers and the occupied. We can acknowledge our collective participation in the temple damage, and we can also commit ourselves to her repair over and over and over again, rededicating ourselves as Earth temple keepers. Now that's rededication. Rededication. That's the theme of Hanukkah, after all. And a little bit of a side note and plug, some of you have been to the monthly community reads with UU Ministry for Earth this year. Last Tuesday of the month, if you'd like to join us, we are reading Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson's book, What If We Get It Right? Visions of a Climate Future. And the entire premise of that book is, what are the things that we can do to make a change, even knowing we can't make it perfect, but we can make an impact. So getting out of binary thinking and into action. So let's talk a little bit more about the miracle of Hanukkah, and then we can have some dialogue. So the nice wrapped up story of children's Hanukkah, the children's story of Hanukkah, is often conveyed as the miracle of the super duper long lasting olive oil, of the temple lamp that was lit and burned and long past when it should naturally have expired. And there is some juice in that. There's some meaning and resources that if we thought something would run out and it lasted longer than we anticipated, that's really cool. But there's another miracle in the story. The real miracle of the story, in my opinion, comes before the lamp is ever lit. It comes before the olive oil. The miracle happened when someone decided that whether or not there was enough oil, they were going to light the lamp anyway. The lamp deserved lighting anyway. It's a story of a leap of faith. And it's more than just that moment, actually. It's all the moments that led up to that moment. It's every decision by every person that the lamp was worth fighting to get to in order to relight. We will get back there until that moment occurred. The story of Hanukkah is a tapestry of miracles. It's a long arc journey of continued leaps of faith by many in community, committed community. So I ask us to apply this story today and ask ourselves, what kind of community do we want to be? Because we are in the middle of our story. That's why we tell these other stories, because it can be nice to reflect on what story we're in the middle of. So what do we want the future to say about us? Do we want to keep the flame alive too? What will it mean about us if we don't? What is our struggle? And let's not fool ourselves. They all questioned along the way. Human beings do that, so don't think that we're any different, right? Because what if a miracle could happen? What if healing beyond our wildest imaginings or mental blocks is possible for the people of the future, for the temple of the earth tomorrow, for whoever inherits earth? We owe it to ourselves and to the people of the future to keep the flame of hope alive and to keep the candles burning, to remain committed to environmental repair and to other social justice and human rights issues of our time. And we do it together, one candle at a time. It needs to be done together in community. One leap of faith after another. We just keep trying, keep sharing with one another, keep learning together, and keep going together, one candle at a time. And if you choose to observe Hanukkah this year, one candle at a time each night, because we don't know what will happen if we don't try. So may we continue to kindle flames of hope together for our children, our children's children, the earth, because all of the temples of the world are worth saving. May it be so, and may we be among those to make it so. Amen, amen, and blessed be.